Hello, and welcome back to Sprechen Disc Golf, the most reliable Pro Tour focused podcast. As always, I am your host, Zachary Coleman, and we are back with an audio episode today. Still haven't gotten my video kind of figured out yet, so it might be audio for a little while, but that is okay. We still have a great episode on hand for you. We are going to be recapping the Cascade Challenge as well as previewing the Portland Open. If you haven't already, go check us out on Twitter, on Instagram, Sprechen Disc Golf, or check out our home platform, spreckensports.com. More about that at the end of the episode. So, starting off, we're going to be recapping Cascade. I was actually at this event in person. I had the pleasure of attending. I was able to follow quite a few cards, meet a ton of really cool people, and overall, it was a great experience. So, I would say if you have a chance to go to a Pro Tour event, absolutely do it. This was just a Silver Series, but it was amazing to experience and kind of be there in person. So just kind of going through round by round, I'm actually not going to give you the normal breakdown I do because I'm going to kind of tell it as I saw it and kind of tell it as a spectator saw it in person. So round one, I followed Ricky Wysocki, Garrett Gurthie, Paul Ulibarri, and Shade Harrison on a card that was pretty early teeing off in the day. Pretty cool to start. Shade actually aced hole one, just a shorter 270-foot par 3. Dead center of the chains, hearted it. Beautiful ace. Garrett and Ricky both parked it, I believe, for the birdie, if I remember correctly. And Paul came up a little bit long, running the ace as well. We move on. We get into the round. Ricky started, I think, three down through 3 or 4 down through 4. He is moving. Garrett was getting some birdies in there. Paul struggling a little bit, but he got some birdies in there as well. Shade really struggled after that ace. The card was solid, and Ricky ended up, I believe, shooting the best of them. At about hole 14, we swung back to Tournament Central on hole 1 to watch the lead card tee off, or I guess feature card. That would be Anthony Barella, Adam Hammes, Carter Aarons, and Eagle McMahon. And lead card struggled mightily. I was kind of surprised at the card they put. This is such a woods course, and they put really some of the farthest throwers on the card. Really came as a big surprise to me, and it showed. Like, these aren't guys who are known as gap hitters traditionally. Not saying they don't have the ability to, but over a long period of time, there are going to be guys that outperform them in terms of hitting gaps. And it showed. Like, they weren't hitting gaps very well. Eagle with some really uncharacteristic mistakes on upshots and putts. Ended up, I believe he was 2 over at one point. Did end up bringing it back around. Ending up shooting, I believe, 4 or 5 under par, but really weak showing overall from the lead card. But it was still fun to be there. Carter Aarons was a local kid. I believe he's only 15, and he is ridiculously talented. I mean, he is just electric to watch. Did have a rough event, but he is coming off his best finish ever at a Pro Tour event at Beaver State Fling. He shot the hot 12 down final round, and it was good to see him in person. He was seemed like a cool guy. But yeah, everyone kind of struggled, never really found their stride, so I'm glad we did watch the Ricky, Garrett, Paul card because they were doing a little bit better. Round 2, I went out with the intention of following a few cards early and then following a lead card, but I jumped onto the Eric Oakley, Väinö Makala, Joona Heinonen, and Gannon Burr card, and I did not want to leave. It was such a fun card. The kind of just energy from the card was awesome. They were all playing really well with the exception of Gannon, all really torching the course. And Oakley had some highlights from the round. He ended up chaining out an ace on hole 9 and then throwing in for eagle on hole 10. It was awesome to watch. On hole 9, he called go in right out of his hand. It stayed online the entire way, just spit out, and then throws in with his spice from about 300 feet. On hole 10 on the par 4. It was so sick to watch. He was such a cool guy. And what was really fun about that card was I was really one of the only people watching it. There was maybe 4 other people. So it was really fun interacting with the guys. Like Eric Oakley, super nice. He was chatting us up and thanking us whenever he got a chance. And he was just so cool. Gannon was being really funny. He was doing his best Väinö impression and Eric Oakley impression, as they both have somewhat unique forms. Yeah, the energy on the card was just awesome. And I got to see a long Gannon knee putt. Hole 1, snuck it under the tree into the basket. Beautiful, beautiful putt. You can see he has so much talent. Yeah, just an awesome card to follow. I followed it until the end, and then we sat on 18 and watched lead and chase card come through. This card ended up playing better than any of the cards out there, really. I mean, they were killing it. So it was so fun to watch. Eric Oakley ended up on lead card, and Vino and Yona both on chase. So that was awesome to see. Round 3, James Conrad, Ricky Wysocki, Evan Scott, and Eric Oakley made up the lead card. James was in the lead by 2 after the previous day, 4 putting on hole 18 for what would have been a 5-stroke lead, dwindled down to a 2-stroke lead over Ricky and Evan Scott. And he was really just never able to maintain the pace that the card was putting out there. Ricky and Evan started battling. It became a battle between those two. Evan Scott at one point was in the lead, but Ricky put in a charge on the back nine to take it home by 3 strokes over Evan Scott and Matt Bell, who tied for second. Overall, this was such a fun event to watch. I mean, meeting all the guys at the Fly Mart on Saturday night was so cool. Guys in particular that were super fun to talk to. Presnell was really cool. James Proctor and Eric Oakley were both awesome. I talked to Jeff Corns, who was the tournament director, and I believe the touring manager for Discraft. Overall, just such a fun experience to kind of see that in person, talk with all those guys, and they were all so nice. Really, really fun experience. Getting into the Portland Open, I'm really excited. This is our first Elite Plus event of the year down at Glendoveer West and East. Starts on June 1st, which is tomorrow if you're listening, on Wednesday. Runs through June 4th, and it is 2 rounds at West. So the first 2 rounds are going to be at Glendoveer West. Second 2 rounds are at Glendoveer East, which I think will make for a really, really interesting dynamic on moving day. You are going to, on moving day, you're going to be playing a new course, so we could see a lot of guys jump up, some guys drop down. This should be a very, very kind of interesting tournament we see with this switch over after 1 and 2 and not alternating like we've seen at places such as Las Vegas. Some of the notes from the field: Ricky is back at his first full Pro Tour event since, I believe it was Music City was when we last saw him. It has been a while for Rick, so it is good to have him back. And then we have Kristen Tatar is back as well, but departing is Paul Macbeth, who is in Europe. He's playing his first event at the Estonian Open, I think it is. And so he will be competing against the likes of Lori Lightnin instead of Ricky and Calvin and Eagle. Val Mandujano, we do have a return date for her now. She's going to return at DDO is what she's saying. And then no Evelina or Henna at this event, which does really weaken the field when you have such a thrower-heavy course such as Glendoveer. I think Evelina and Henna both had a good chance here, but they are not present at this event. I imagine they're back in Europe right now. Looking at some storylines going into the event, number one kind of elephant in the room is that Eagle doesn't really lose in Oregon. I believe it's in his last 5 starts. He only has 1 loss, and that was in a playoff. And this course, I don't think plays any differently than the other Oregon courses that he's played. I think it plays to his strengths. Weirdly enough, Oregon being in the Pacific Northwest, they seem to hit us with some really long kind of roller-heavy courses. And that shapes up really well for Eagles' game. I would expect him to compete, if not win, this weekend. And I think that's probably the expectation he has for himself. I don't think he'll be happy with anything but a victory, kind of knowing he has some momentum now. He's played Beaver State Fling. He really played so well. And I think he's going to be going into this with the expectation that he is the favorite and he must kind of maintain that status. The course itself is super interesting. Watching Brody's practice round and just flipping through the caddy book, it has a really unique amount and kind of shape of the OBs. A lot of golf greens, a lot of hazards, and a ton of mandos, which I love. I think we need more mandos. I think there are too many players that are kind of breaking the course. I think too many people get away with things, missing their gaps, stuff like that. And I think mandos really make it the cream rise to the top because you force players to play the hole how it's designed, and that's really overall the spirit of the game. We really do need more mandos in disc golf in general, and I love their use here at Portland. I think this is going to be a super unique event, honestly, and I'm really excited there was one of the holes Birdie was highlighting. It's a par 4. It's like 500 something feet, slightly downhill, but there is OB everywhere, and all OB from the tee goes to a drop zone. So you have this like risk reward, but you're not just able to bomb it past the basket and take an easy par, right? You have to really work for that par, or an easy birdie. You really have to actually work for that par. And I love this kind of risk reward. I think it's going to play super interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of different approaches to the course, and I'm so excited for how the course is going to play. They also did incorporate a surprising amount of like low ceilings and kind of trees off the tee, which I'm super pumped for. I think it's going to be similar to some of the holes we saw at Shelton in the Cascade Challenge, where you kind of have the tight opening or the tight gap off the tee into the bigger outfield or opening. It looks like they did a great job. I don't know who designed this course. I know Dustin Keegan has been in charge of design of a Portland event in the past. I don't know if he had his hand in it this year, but whoever did it did a fantastic job. I think coming in, I mentioned Eagle, I think, is the expectation to win. And I think Rick, I know he got the Silver Series win, but I don't think Rick's going to be satisfied until he gets that full Pro Tour win. I can't say what I think he thinks, but I know a lot of people consider Silver Series wins, as they should, a little bit lower than Pro Tour wins. And so I don't think he's going to be satisfied until he really gets that full Elite Series, in an Elite Plus event nonetheless. I don't think he's going to be satisfied until he gets that win. And even then, he's going to still be hunting. This is the first Elite Plus event, meaning this is the opportunity for guys like Gannon to catch Calvin in the Pro Tour point standings. I think if Calvin has a good finish and Gannon has a bad finish, we could be, I know it's really early, but it could be getting close to a wrap on that kind of Pro Tour points leader, because if you look at it right now, Gannon played Cascade Challenge, Calvin did not, and Gannon unfortunately was not able to bring down a crazy good finish, just picking up 21st, not good enough to really gain anything on Calvin because that will be dropped from his finishes. So overall, he's still 125 points behind Calvin. And the only other guy even remotely in striking distance is Isaac Robinson, who's 190 points back. So if Calvin can come out and get a win or a podium and Gannon or Isaac slip up, I mean, we really realistically could be seeing the end of that kind of race and just, I know we're getting close to it. Kind of feels like Formula One with Max Verstappen taking that huge lead and who's going to catch him. But it is now kind of do or die for Gannon if he wants to catch Calvin in that. And I know that kind of title, I know for Ricky it was really important. So I imagine for some of the other guys it's gaining a little more prestige, is winning that Pro Tour points. Predictions, just a top 3 and a dark horse for each MPO and FPO. Predictions on MPO side are Eagle McMahon, Calvin Heimberg, and Kyle Klein. Eagle, enough said, right? Winning in Oregon is second hand for him. Calvin's having such a great year, hard to count him out at a long course. And Kyle Klein, I think, has a fantastic roller game and all around really well-rounded. So I look forward to seeing his game kind of on display here. My dark horse is Mr. Garrett Gurthey. He played decently solid in the woods at Cascade, I think better than I expected him to. And this course shapes up really well for his game. I think he's going to be dropping the roller down a lot, really airing out the tee shots. And that plays to his advantage every day of the week. So look out for Garrett Gurthey to be kind of in contention this weekend. On the FPO side, Chris Natar, no surprise there. Number 2, I have Ella Hansen. She is a Pacific Northwest native. I believe she's from Seattle. So this is kind of a little more in her wheelhouse, and she loves a good roller. She loves a good big air shot. This kind of suits her game, so I expect her to play well this weekend. Number 3, Paige Pierce, kind of the same thing. She loves a big, long tee shot, and I think this course suits her game. My dark horse is Sarah Hokum. I think with the kind of touchy approaches you have to throw, it was looking like a lot of them are going to be kind of forehand-friendly approaches. So I think Sarah Hokum's kind of going to stay in the mix. I don't expect her to compete for a win, but I do expect her to kind of compete for that top 5, kind of finishing up, maybe well below the leader, but still above the field that's having trouble. So expect Sarah Hokum to shoot pretty safe out there. My bold predictions is that the course is going to play tough, with the winner averaging only 8 under par per round. This is going to be well below what we've seen from some of the other events, but I think it's realistic with the amount of OB. I don't think anyone's going to come out unscathed. I think everyone's just going to have to take their medicine at one point or another, And I don't know with the course switch if anyone's going to be able to go, shredding 4 rounds in a row. I think everyone's going to have a little bit of a down round, maybe 2. And we will see if it can play kind of similar to what OTB did, where no one was really going crazy every round, but we saw enough consistency out of Emerson Keith to take down the win. Next bold prediction is that Gannon Burr will miss the top 15. This kind of, what we've seen this year from Gannon is really great finishes and then a little bit, some blips here and there. So LVC Waco, a little bit of a blip, Texas State's a little bit of a blip, and then last week, a little bit of a blip. He's coming off, a second at OTB after a really good final round, a pretty decent stretch there with all top 10s, and I think this is going to be another little bit of a blip. I think he struggles, and he's admitted this with that kind of 150 to 200 foot upshot, and I think if you struggle with this, you're going to take some large numbers this weekend because the greens are not forgiving. There is a lot of OB surrounding them. They're pretty tight, so I think it is going to be really, really rough for a player like Gannon at times. He still can air out the drives and maybe get himself into close enough range, but again, he's not super comfortable with that kind of upshot distance. And then I'm going to predict that MPO goes to a playoff. I think we're back with a really, really strong field here. And I would love to see MPO kind of push the boundary, have 2 guys battling out. I would love to see another playoff. So, it's hard to predict a playoff just based on any stats or anything. But I just expect that with kind of this maybe lower scoring winner, we could have it a little more clumped up. So looking forward to this weekend. I really do like when we're up in the Pacific Northwest, kind of my home area, and it's good to see people take on this terrain and everything like that. You can tune in on Disc Golf Network. First round is free on YouTube, so if you aren't a subscriber, go check it out on YouTube. Otherwise, Jomas will be covering it as always with the full Pro Tour stops. So I'm really looking forward to it. Any comments or concerns or questions, drop them down below, or hit me up on Instagram or Twitter. I'd be happy to kind of answer any questions or takes you might have about the event or the Pro Tour in general. So that is going to wrap up our episode for this week. Thank you, as always, for listening. As I mentioned, if you haven't already, go check out our home platform, SpreckenSports.com, for a little more info on the podcast and kind of what we are all about. And if I don't think I have anything else for you guys, so I will see you in the next episode of Sprechen Disc Golf.